One common theme in this market around XRP has been how successful the ETFs have been for XRP. And I think that the growing negativity around XRP at this moment, when it comes back to any performance with these ETFs, is simply the fact that, they're not driving the price up. And I'm not too sure where this idea comes from, where we're looking at these ETF inflows and we're seeing the total assets held at 1.18 billion. So the total inflows here have been just over $1 billion. We're seeing inflows almost every single day of about roughly $20+ million, obviously business days, so Monday through Friday. And we're expecting this to, cause the price to go up for XRP. And I think that that's a big issue. I don't know how people expect $20 million or even just 1.18 billion, because we hit 1.18 billion. How we expect that to move the value of XRP. It's not until we start to see these ETFs really pick up to the point where they're, seeing $1 billion in inflows in a single day. Until we see that, these ETFs are not going to cause the price of XRP to go insane. And I made a video recently where I talked about that over time, we will see these accumulate to the point where, yeah, it will affect the value in a very positive way. The good news, though, is that we did see over 19 straight days of inflows. And on Friday, they did record a significant amount of money in, which is very good. And what's crazy about this is we recently did talk about the ETFs. Specifically, we talked about how we hit 0.5% of the total supply locked in those ETFs. Well, we recently just saw this get updated, and we're nearly at 0.7%. It's not a 1% mark of the total supply, but we are watching this start to scale a lot more, which is very exciting to see. Now, the most recent launch was 21 shares. Now, 21 shares only recorded about over $207,000 worth of volume. So it's a very small ETF at the moment, but I do suspect that that will start to pick up once the market starts to pick back up as well. The total assets under management just hit over 1.3 billion, which this is a big shift because we recently just hit $1 billion in assets under management. So the fact that we're starting to see this climb the way that it is very exciting. And it's starting to also show us that demand is rising significantly while the market is down, which is also sort of a, build up behind the scenes, which will start to accumulate more and more and more, and then start to really push the price once the market reverses, which I'm very excited about as well. Now, talking more so about this, we did see an interview from 21 Shares actually on CNBC. And this is their chief strategist breaking down the demand, the growth, and why XRP was the natural next ETF in the US market. Big shout to Zave Crypto for this. We have XRP is finally getting the mainstream spotlight it deserves, now featured on CNBC. And for the longest time, XRP was kind of just in the shadows on these platforms. The only time that we really witnessed XRP spotlight, it was, back in 2017 when XRP was going insane. And then also during the SEC lawsuit in 2021. But check this out real quick.
Today, 21 Shares debuted its spot XRP ETF in the U.S. amid increased demand from clients for diversified crypto exposure. Now, 21 Shares already offers a spot Bitcoin and Ether ETF in the U.S. So what made the asset manager want to launch a product focused on XRP specifically?
I would say it's a natural progression, just giving the regulatory tailwinds in the US and also just client demand. We're moving across the long tail of crypto assets, and XRP was a natural next step.
Now we're seeing so many of these ETFs tied to altcoins pop up here in the US, including other spot XRP ETFs from asset managers like Canary Capital. That product launched last month. Do you think the market is becoming oversaturated with these investment vehicles, or do you think there is enough demand to go around for all of them to succeed?
That's a very good question. I would say we're still at the very beginning of the digital asset adoption. And that's why it's good to have a variety of options and offerings out in the market. I would say the good thing is, just because 21 Shares, we are a asset manager, Swiss born and raised, and now bringing our 8-year track record to the US. And here we already seen that, naturally clients move up or move beyond just Bitcoin and Ethereum. And usually the demand picks up for crypto assets beyond the big two.
So yeah, I mean, I do agree with him on a lot of those points. The one thing that he did say that I think that everyone should really reflect on, especially at a time where, we are seeing these ETFs around XRP be very successful. I mean, over $1.3 billion, almost 700 million XRP already locked in those vaults. When we are, thinking about this, we're still at the early phases of digital asset adoption. So if we're looking at the ETFs and the success of them already, imagine how successful these are going to be, you know, in the next year or two, or, you know, even when adoption starts to really pick up and we're at like the mass adoption point of view of, you know, the market. I mean, at that point, we will see most likely billions of dollars flooding in daily inflows, and we'll start to see the supply of XRP locked growing significantly as well. I know that a lot of people have been spotlighting the supply shock, and I even talked about the supply shock as well. It's not going to be an immediate thing. It's not going to happen overnight, but if this continues to accumulate the way that it is, especially at the rate, because we're, you know, coming up on almost like one whole month, almost 1% of the supply is locked away. I mean, it's questionable on how long it can take, but you know, give it 3-6 months, reflect back on this, and I think that we're going to be quite surprised by how much of the supply of XRP is locked away. But again, it's not going to be an immediate thing. It's going to be a longevity thing where, you know, we're looking at it in the long-term view. But so far, these have been very, very good. And of course, when it comes back to the ETFs, I mean, there's 126 crypto ETFs waiting for approval. ETF analyst James Seifert said that there are 126 crypto ETF applications filed in the US. Bitcoin leads with 21, followed by basket ETFs 15, and then XRP with 10, and then Solana 9, and Ethereum at 7. So ETF applications for XRP are starting to pick up more than Solana because, of course, of the, you know, success of the most recent ones. I'm still waiting on the big names like BlackRock to jump in on this because, you know, obviously they would have to be looking at how successful these ETF launches for XRP have been, especially compared back to even Ethereum. I mean, I would be looking at this and I would be saying, well, you know, we need to have one of these products. And, you know, the good news is that, you know, XRP is starting to peak a little bit, you know, on the total assets in value already. I do think that Ethereum has been around. I think that they got their first Ethereum ETF application approved back in, I want to say 2024. It was like kind of the summer of 2024. I might be wrong on the time frame there, but I do know that Bitcoin's happened in January 2024, and then Ethereum was, you know, pretty quick after that. So I want to say around like the May, June time frame. And if that is the case, you know, we're coming up on, you know, over a year and a half or so that the Ethereum ETFs have been running for. XRP, it's only a month. So far, the volume has been very good. I do think that XRP could quickly outpace the overall total assets locked up that Ethereum had in a big way. And I think that that's going to be a huge signal that these players need to get on board of the train because, you know, XRP is not slowing down, especially these ETFs. They're doing very well. And also, by the way, we did see from the CEO of Canary Funds, which Canary Funds does have the most successful ETF launch to date. Canary Funds has been on fire with their ETF. Right now, you can see the total shares just in terms of like the daily view. I don't know. Yeah, so